Hello everybody, and welcome to Appalachian Cemetery Hunting with Robin. Today we're going to be looking at two small cemeteries, and they are the Thomas McNew Haun Cemetery and the Thomas Cemetery. These two small cemeteries are located just off Highway 63 in Claiborne County, Tennessee, and they are literally right next to each other. Between them they have a total of only about 40 graves, so that is why we combine them into one video. So let's get started. We will look at the Thomas McNew Haun Cemetery first. We have Curtis Howard Green, born and died in 1912, and he was only 21 days old. Next, we have Albert Lee Haun, 1951 to 2023. And here's a picture of him. He passed away in Illinois, but when he was young, he ran moonshine from Kentucky to Tennessee. And Albert will also tell you that at that time he was dating a local policeman's daughter, and he would laugh and tell stories of waving at the police as he sped away with the moonshine. But he always made sure you knew that he had turned his life around and that he was no longer breaking the rules. And in his later years, he turned his life over to God. And this was according to a story I found on findagrave.com. Next, we have Edna Jane Hill Haun, 1930 to 2015. Next is Isaac Lloyd Haun, 1880 to 1957, and his wife Minnie E. Haun, 1890 to 1932. Now we have Lawrence Willis Haun, 1908 to 1910. He was just 2 years old. Next is Martha A. Haun, 1860 to 1925. Now, folks, this next one, I'm going to warn you ahead of time, it's really a heartbreaker. I just want to let you know. We have Minnie Sarah Haun, 1954 to 1957, and she was only 3.5 years old when she passed. Now, according to the story I found, she was with her mom at the foothills of the Cumberland Mountains in Speedwell, which is in Claiborne County, Tennessee. Now, her mother was gathering and hulling walnuts, and little Minnie wandered off into the mountains and was lost for several days. Searchers found her lying near a log, and she had been dead for a few days. The Cumberland Mountains are very beautiful, but they can be very dangerous. She apparently survived several days and near freezing nights, and the coroner said her death was caused by exposure and starvation. Like I said, that's a sad story. Next, we have Robert Dale Haun, 1964 to 1995. Next, we have Walter D. Haun, 1911 to 1986. And he served in the United States Army during World War II. Now we have another Walter D. Haun. He was born and died on November 22nd, 1945. Next is William Franklin Haun, 1907 to 1984. And he fought in World War II with the United States Army. Now we have another William Franklin Haun. He was born in 1854 and died in 1929. Next we have Willis Lawrence Haun, 1950 to 2005. Now we have Albert D. McNew, 1939 to 1960. And here's a close-up of this picture that's on his headstone. Next, we have David McNew, 1899 to 1981, and his wife, Mary Ida Cordelia McCrary McNew, 1907 to 1978. Now we have Winton McNew, and he went by Wint, 1901 to 1971, and his wife, Gertrude Octavia Patrick McNew, 1919 to 1967. Now we have Hoyt K. McNew, 1936 to 1964. And now we have an infant McNew, born and died on August 21st, 1912. Now we have Lydia Mathis McNew, and she went by Liddy, 1869 to 1924. Now we have Robert McNew, 1866 to 1942. Next is Willie McNew, 1892 to 1913. Here we have John Pierman, 1866 to 1886. Next we have Isaac Thomas, 1791 to 1882, and his wife Rebecca Barb Thomas, 1796 to 1882. And this is a close-up of their headstone that sits on top of their crypt. Now Rebecca died in February, and Isaac died 2 months later. Now in this little cemetery, we only have one that there's no picture of their headstone. That is Evelyn Haun. We do not know when she was born, but she died in 1962. And according to findagrave.com, there are many other unknown people buried here, and some only have fieldstones as markers with no carving on them. Now let's look at the Thomas Cemetery. We have Clayton C. Gibson, who went by Clay, 1894 to 1923. Next is Edna Gibson, November of 1890 to June of 1891, and she was only 6 months old. Next we have James Dudley Gibson, 1867 to 1942, and his wife Elizabeth Thomas Gibson, 1871 to 1944. Next is Ralph Dudley Gibson, 1909 to 1911. Now, in this next person, I hope I can pronounce his first name right. He was Dr. Abidimus Thomas, and that first name is spelled AbidYmus, and he went by Didymus, spelled DidYmus. He was born in 1869 and died in 1919. And we have his wife Stella Gibson Thomas, 1873 to 1959. And according to the information I found on Find a Grave, the doctor committed suicide. Next we have Joseph Campbell Thomas, 1838 to 1921, and his wife Sarah Lavinia Ball Thomas, 1843 to 1924. Next we have Joseph Curtis Thomas, 1895 to 1909. Now we have Thaddeus Franklin Thomas, 1864 to 1881. Now there are only 2 graves with no pictures at all, and they are Isaac James Thomas, born and died in 1861 and only 2 months old, and Carl Clayton Thomas, 1893 to 1941. Folks, that sound you heard in the background, it was our Labradoodle Daisy, and she's got a little bit of a cough. But anyway, we sincerely hope you've liked this little video. Please hit the like, subscribe, and share buttons. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.